I'm Jim Crook, Senior Director of Marketing at Ctera. Really nice to be with you all for Storage Field Day 22. And like Laurent said, it's probably been it's been too long, or what have we been waiting for? It's great to be here. So I'm going to go over some more of the customer-centric stories that we've been building out over the past several years. But just to touch on who Ctera is, what we do, again, we are a software-defined storage platform. We're built to help distributed organizations connect remote sites, remote users to a multi-cloud global file system. And Laurent mentioned our focus on zero impact to data performance and data security and privacy, and that's something we're very much focused on. And we are the world's #1 in terms of edge filers deployed across the world in 110 countries, and we're selling into very large brands and organizations, and I'll touch on that in a couple slides here. We've been able to gain recognition for our platform. Several awards we've won from reputable industry sources in the past year, and we're very proud of that as well. So we're trusted by the global Fortune 500 and governments, and we're really proud to work with some of the biggest names in the world, as you can see here. And really, these are just the ones that we can mention. We have many customers that unfortunately we cannot mention, but you really get a sense of the global reach of Ctera and who we're working with today just from these alone. Laurent really went through in the Ctera company overview video the totality of the platform and our wide-ranging use cases, and you can get a sense of, from just this list alone of really who we're working with. GE, for example, we're working with them to back up physical servers and in-cloud servers. McDonald's, we're very proud to help them modernize their NAS consolidation project as they opened a new headquarters in Chicago. Festo is a global manufacturer based in Germany. And you also see many government organizations here as well, both federal and state. We have very strong inroads there, as well as telcos that we enable telcos like Bezeq and Portugal Telecom to become their own file services provider, leveraging our platform to sell into their own end users. We have very strong partner relationships as well across cloud and object storage providers, VARs, SIs, and technology providers. Varonis, for example, we just announced an integration with their data security threat platform. And so, as Laurent mentioned, we're a cloud agnostic platform, and Simon also mentioned that we're working with about 35 or 36 different cloud object providers today. So we really think that providing that cloud agnostic choice bringing your own cloud really provides that freedom of choice that customers are looking for as they deploy cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud topologies today. I would just call out, two partner, recognitions that we've gotten from HP and IBM, both very strong go-to-market partnerships with them. HP, we were just named the Edge to Cloud Momentum Partner of the Year at HP Discover in June. Like HP, we're very committed to the edge to cloud data management space, and there's some really strong synergy between us and HPE as we go to market together. As well, we're also very active with IBM. They are providing cloud objects for on-prem and cloud storage, and we've been named a Systems Channel Excellence winner as well. So we have really strong relationships, really up and down our partner network, and it's driving a lot of strong business opportunity for us today. So Laurent touched on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, and I'll get into some customer case studies. But we're really focused on a handful of key verticals, key industries for us that really lend themselves well to the Ctera platform. I think there are a few common threads that you can pull through across all of these different industries, and it's the distributed locations. These organizations are geographically distributed. They've got tens or hundreds or even thousands sometimes of locations that need to be centrally managed, and our platform enables them to do that. They have security regulations in a lot of these cases as well. Large file workloads and creative content editing, I think all are increasingly applying across many different industries that we're working with today. You know, on the industrial side, you can think of this, we think of this as manufacturing, engineering, construction. GE is a good example, customer example of this, but they're focused on building hybrid clouds. They're working with large files across multiple sites. And so the Ctera platform is really ideal for connecting those sites into a single global namespace and enabling that multi-site collaboration. On the public sector side, we're working with state governments, state of Texas, state of Florida. These are organizations that have GovCloud requirements. They've got several branches and locations that need to be managed. And they're also dealing with various government and state regulations that need to be adhered to. So we've got very strong inroads with those organizations as well. On the financial services side, these are organizations that I think above all have very strong data privacy requirements, banks and insurance companies and private equity firms. I'll talk about the Carlyle Group and their specific story in just a minute here. But it's another strong vertical for us today. Media, as we mentioned in the customer or the company overview video, this is a very strong vertical for us because we built the platform to serve media and advertising organizations and even media teams within large enterprises that have specific requirements for Mac and Adobe and large files and ultra high def video. WPP is one of the world's largest communications firms, conglomerates. They've got thousands of locations around the world. We're working with them to help enable their file storage modernization agenda as well. Federal defense, I'll talk about a little more in depth in a couple minutes, but this is a very strong vertical for us, and there's a lot of momentum in this space, and I'll talk about that. And then healthcare is probably the other vertical that we're working very closely with. We've got many customers in this space. Humana being a really good example of a health insurance firm that are dealing with very stringent regulations around patient data, HIPAA requirements, and things like that. There's also a lot of archiving and compliance around how they archive files. So all of these different industries we have very strong traction in, and they're really driving the business forward today. So I'll just touch on a few customer stories here. And the first one we'll call out is the Carlyle Group. Carlyle Group is probably, if not the largest private equity firm in the world today. It's one of the top few. And Carlyle came to us a few years ago, and they were looking at different ways to modernize their remote file storage. In particular, they wanted to think about how they could shore up their business continuity and disaster recovery. How they recovered from natural disasters and outages and things like that was really critical as they did an internal review of how they were performing as an IT organization. They came to us, and essentially how we helped them move on from their legacy traditional file servers at their different locations. Instead of taking weeks or at least days to get up and running with a new filer or new gateway or excuse me, a new NAS at a distributed location, with Ctera, with our filers, with our failover and two-tiered architecture that we discussed in the company overview, we're able to provide them a much more fast and more productive way for their users to stay working in the event of some sort of outage or natural disaster. Data privacy and compliance are really key for Carlyle Group, as you might imagine, working in the private equity space. So they need a solution that's entirely private and allows them to leverage cloud without exposing sensitive data. And our platform being able to deploy entirely within a VPC and keeping the portal deployed entirely privately as well. We're able to provide them, we're able to satisfy those requirements for privacy and compliance. So, in all, we saved Carlisle up to 80% over their legacy storage, shored up their business continuity through that local and cloud DR, and really enabled much better levels of collaboration across their global sites. Another distributed organization and a leader that's a really good example of what we're doing with these types of companies is Gore. If you're familiar with Gore-Tex, the clothing fabric, that's Gore is the company behind that. The story we typically like to tell around Gore is around data migration, but again, this is another company that's looking to simplify their branch storage, their IT footprint, and where the Ctera migration tool comes into that is that you can essentially move everything from your existing corporate shares. You don't have to change anything about the way users access files or any sort of, you don't have to flatten the file system. You don't need to create a whole new set of rules and things like that. You can able to move everything from your legacy system. In this case, it was their legacy NetApp filers to the Ctera global file system. And they were up and running. And as you can see the quote here from Jeff Newman, the IT architect, they were able to retire legacy file servers across several locations in Europe. And the last customer success story I would just tell is Irish Prison Services. This is gets back to our government organization conversation, and it's also another use case that we haven't mentioned yet around video surveillance storage. And I think this is something that's really growing in terms of being a challenge for any sort of organization that has video surveillance and needing to store those files. This is Irish Prison has about 14 locations across Ireland. They were really looking for a solution that would enable them to solve their video capacity challenges and their long-term data retention requirements. And Ctera came in with a solution that enables them to store the last 30 days of video on that local cache with the Ctera filer, and then to automatically evict older files to an on-prem object store that's powered by Scality. So this is a good example of a government deal. It's a good example of a partnership with HPE and with Scality, and a great example of a modern way to store video surveillance files, and while still being able to bring down, so to speak, from the cloud or from the object store, older files should you need them. So that's an example of a government success story. And I mentioned earlier that this has become a very strong vertical for us and an area of strong growth for the company, really for all the reasons that we've mentioned so far in terms of our data privacy and our data security. I think the key differentiators around how we're penetrating this vertical is really, boils down to that we're the only DoD approved solution, the only DoD approved global file system solution that's available through their APL, which is the DoD's approved product list, the United States Department of Defense approved product list. This means that any DoD agency can easily purchase Ctera from this APL, this catalog. They know that Ctera has passed a very rigorous and tough set of requirements to be certified for this DoD APL. So just by that alone, we make it very easy and really frictionless for these organizations to modernize their file storage in ways that they have never been able to before.
Jim?
Yes.
Jumping in, quick question. Who would you say you were pulling out of most of these legacy filer implementations? Is it mostly Windows shares, like standard Windows Server shares, NetApp? Who's losing in this one? Because I can see definitely you guys winning in a lot of this move to the cloud and make it easy and seamless. Just curious to see where the market share is coming from.
Exactly. Yeah, Eric. It's actually it's similar to the commercial side. It's mostly NetApp and Windows filers Those are typically the most common organization or vendors that we're taking out.
Okay. And are you seeing a lot of people going like the Irish prison route and doing their on-prem Scality or object store for that privacy and complete control of the stack? Do you see that outside a lot?
We do. We see a really strong mix, actually, both ways. We have government organizations that are leveraging AWS and Azure, and then we also have government organizations like Irish Prison that are building out their own object store on-prem. It varies, really. I don't think there's any trend either way, but it is a good mix of both.
I would add that we see quite a bit of openness also to going to Amazon GovCloud or Azure GovCloud. And even in the scenario where you're using an on-premise object storage system such as Scality, I've seen many instances where you get to a point where you're managing, so many petabytes of data, when you're getting to like the 6 or 8 petabyte range, where you're starting to look at, okay, can I move some of this to the cloud? So that discussion is very common that we have. It's just, can I move some of it to the cloud and maybe shrink the on-prem footprint?
Oh, so you're saying use that policy-based system. Say I've got my 6 terabyte Scality on-prem, and I know what cold data looks like.
Yeah, use cloud for kind of longer-term archival. So.
Okay, that's interesting.
Sorry, Rico, go ahead.
Customer asked you to use, the appliance, the remote appliance for VMware. I'm not talking about hundreds of virtual machines, but we are talking the edge. So maybe 2, 3, 4 virtual machine for a remote office or something like that.
So we would, so our appliances, and I don't know if you've covered the family picture slide, but they vary based on size, capacity, and compute power. But our appliances have enough capacity and compute available for running additional VMs. And that's typical. And just some examples is that, you would want to have local domain controller to your file systems because users log on to their computers faster, right? The whole permission checking is done a lot faster when you have local domain connectivity. Print services is another thing we run into. And then sometimes some network equipment. We ran info blocks on our systems. So it is a general purpose ESX. It's running Ctera, and there's enough compute power for you to run additional apps.